Hi, my name is Sean Kanan, and the book that I chose to read to you is called The Five Chinese Brothers. It's by Claire Hutchett Bishop and Kurt Wise. I used to love this book when I was a kid. I think I like the pictures the most. I haven't read it in a really long time, so I'm going to be getting reacquainted with it as I read it to you. So I hope you enjoy The Five Chinese Brothers. Once upon a time, there were 5 Chinese brothers, and they all looked exactly alike. The first Chinese brother could swallow the sea. The second Chinese brother had an iron neck. And the third Chinese brother could stretch and stretch and stretch his legs. And the fourth Chinese brother could not be burned. And the fifth Chinese brother could hold his breath indefinitely. Every morning, the first Chinese brother would go fishing. And whatever the weather, he would come back to the village with beautiful and rare fish, which he had caught and could sell at the market for a very good price. One day, as he was leaving the marketplace, a little boy stopped him and asked him if he could go fishing with him. No, it could not be done, said the first Chinese brother. But the little boy begged, and finally the first Chinese brother consented. Under one condition, said he, and that is that you shall obey me promptly. Yes, yes, the little boy promised. Early next morning, the first Chinese brother and the little boy went down to the beach. Remember, said the first Chinese brother, you must obey me promptly. When I make a sign for you to come back, you must come back at once. Yes, yes, the little boy promised. Then the first Chinese brother swallowed the sea. This is him, swallowing the sea. And all the fish were left high and dry at the bottom of the sea, and all the treasures of the sea lay uncovered. The little boy was delighted. He ran here and there, stuffing his pockets with strange pebbles, extraordinary shells, and fantastic algae. Near the shore, the first Chinese brother gathered some fish while he kept holding the sea in his mouth. Presently, he grew tired. It's very hard to hold the sea. So he made a sign with his hand for the little boy to come back. The little boy saw him, but paid no attention. There he is, holding the sea in his mouth. That would get tiring. The first Chinese brother made great movements with his arms that meant, come back! But did the little boy care? Not a bit. And he ran further away. Then the first Chinese brother felt the sea swelling inside him, and he made desperate gestures to call the little boy back. But the little boy made faces at him and fled as fast as he can. The first Chinese brother held the sea until he thought he was going to burst. And all of a sudden, the sea forced its way out of his mouth, went back to its bed, and the little boy disappeared. Let's find out what happened to the little boy. When the first Chinese brother returned to the village alone, he was arrested, put in prison, tried and condemned to have his head cut off. On the morning of the execution, he said to the judge, Your Honor, will you allow me to go and bid my mother goodbye? It is only fair, said the judge. So the first Chinese brother went home, and the second Chinese brother came back in his place. All the people were assembled on the village square to witness the execution. The executioner took his sword and struck a mighty blow. These are all the people waiting there right now. Okay. But the second Chinese brother got up and smiled. He was the one with the iron neck, and they simply could not cut his head off. Everybody was angry, and they decided that he should be drowned. Seems pretty happy he didn't lose his head. On the morning of the execution, the second Chinese brother said to the judge, Your Honor, will you allow me to go and bid goodbye to my mother? It is only fair, said the judge. So the second Chinese brother went home, and the third Chinese brother came back in his place. He was pushed in a boat which made for the open sea. And when they were far out on the ocean, the third Chinese brother was thrown overboard. Let's see if he drowns. I don't think so. but he began to stretch and stretch his legs way down to the bottom of the sea. Look at him stretching all the way down. And all the time, his smiling face was bobbing up and down on the crest of the waves because he simply could not be drowned. Everybody was very angry, and they all decided that he should be burned. On the morning of the execution, the third Chinese brother said to the judge, "Your Honor, will you allow me to go and bid goodbye to my mother?" "It is only fair," said the judge. So the third Chinese brother went home, and the fourth Chinese brother came back in his place. These guys are pretty smart. He was tied up at a stake, fire was set to it, and all the people stood around watching it. And in the midst of the flames, they heard him say, "This is quite pleasant." "Bring some more wood," the people cried. The fire roared higher. "Now it's quite comfortable," said the fourth Chinese brother, for he was the one who could not get burned. Everybody was getting more and more angry every minute, and they all decided to smother him. There he is at the stake. He looks pretty happy, even though he's got the flames around his feet. On the morning of the execution, the fourth Chinese brother said to the judge, "You guessed it. Your Honor, will you allow me to go and bid my mother goodbye?" "It is only fair," said the judge. So the fourth Chinese brother went home, and the fifth Chinese brother came back in his place. A large brick oven had been built on the village square, and it had been all stuffed with whipped cream. The fifth Chinese brother was shoveled into the oven, right into the middle of the cream. The door was shut tight, and everybody sat around and waited. He's getting shoved into the oven with the cream. They were not going to be tricked again, so they stayed there all night, and even a little after dawn, just to make sure. Okay, everybody's waiting. Let's see what happens. Then they opened the door and pulled him out, and he shook himself and said, "My, that was a good sleep." Everybody stared open-mouthed and round-eyed, but the judge stepped forward and said, "We have tried to get rid of you in every possible way, and somehow it cannot be done. It must be that you are innocent." "Yes, yes," shouted all the people. So they let him go, and he went home. There he is, getting out of the oven. And the five Chinese brothers and their mother all lived together happily for many years. There's the mom with their 5 sons. Well, I hope you enjoyed the book, and I hope maybe it inspires you to go find a book of your own and go read, because reading is the most amazing thing that you can do. It's just an adventure that can take you to places you never imagined. And especially now while we're all home, having to stay here because of the coronavirus, it's a great time to find a love for reading and to read some books. I hope that you and your families are safe and healthy, and that we'll all get out of this together. Wishing you all the best. Take care.